Bill 7 backfired, how they underestimated Hichilema and lost everything.
Bill 7 has passed, but the real story is just beginning.
Zambians are now witnessing the aftershocks of underestimating President Hichilema.
From strategic moves behind the scenes to political maneuvers that could reshape the nation, tonight we reveal how misjudging HH could cost Zambia more than anyone imagined.
Stay tuned, because this is not just politics, it's a lesson in leadership. Good day, viewers. Welcome to another edition of the InspirAfrica Official. I'm Nakash. It's been quite a week here, hasn't it?
The rains have finally come to southern Africa, and with them, it seems, a downpour of political revelations that nobody saw coming. Today's lead story is one that will be studied in political science classrooms for decades to come, a masterclass in miscalculation, a symphony of strategic blunders, and perhaps the most spectacular backfire in Zambian legislative history. Picture this.
It's 2022. A newly elected president sits in State House, still finding his footing. His opponents smell blood in the water. They craft what they believe is the perfect trap, a constitutional amendment so cleverly designed, so politically poisonous, that it will either force him to destroy his own credibility or hand them a permanent advantage. They call it Bill 10's successor. They call it inevitable. They call it Bill 7. But what if I told you that the hunters became the hunted? That the trap they set with such confidence would snap shut on their own fingers? That the man they underestimated, the businessman they mocked, the economist they dismissed, would turn their weapon into a shield and their ambition into their downfall? How does a sitting opposition craft legislation meant to weaken a president, only to watch him transform it into the very instrument of their political obsolescence? What happens when you build a cage for your enemy and find yourself locked inside? When does confidence cross the line into catastrophic hubris? And most importantly, what did they miss about Hichilema that cost them everything? Factual foundation. The revelation came to light in the months following Zambia's August 2021 general election, the election that saw Hichilema finally ascend to the presidency after 5 previous attempts, defeating incumbent Edgar Lungu by a landslide margin of nearly 1 million votes. In December 2022, just 16 months into Hichilema's presidency, members of the opposition Patriotic Front began circulating whispers about a new constitutional amendment bill. This wasn't just any bill. Bill 7, as it would become known, was positioned as a continuation of the controversial Bill 10 that had died in Parliament during the Lungu administration. The initial discovery came from civil society organizations who noticed unusual movements in parliamentary committees. Lawyers and constitutional experts began receiving informal consultations from PF-aligned politicians. Something was brewing. By early 2023, the picture became clearer. Bill 7 was designed to amend Article 52 of the Zambian Constitution, the clause governing presidential eligibility. On the surface, the amendment seemed to close a loophole about how presidential terms were counted. But constitutional lawyers immediately recognized its true purpose. If passed, it could potentially disqualify Hichilema from seeking re-election in 2026 by retroactively redefining how his previous candidacies counted against term limits. The PF's strategy was elegant in its cynicism. They would introduce the bill through sympathetic backbenchers. They would frame it as a constitutional clarification necessary for democracy. They would dare Hichilema's UPND majority to vote it down and then accuse him of avoiding accountability and constitutional reform. What they failed to anticipate was that Hichilema had been 10 steps ahead from the moment they conceived the plan. By March 2023, the bill was formally introduced. By April, the public debate had begun. And by June, the entire opposition strategy lay in ruins, destroyed not by force, but by something far more devastating: transparency. Direct evidence. The most damning testimony came from a leaked recording of a PF strategy meeting in February 2023, obtained by investigative journalists. In it, former cabinet minister Bowman Lasambo can be heard outlining the plan. Listen, the beauty of this thing is that HH cannot oppose it without looking like he's afraid of the Constitution. If he supports it, we've limited him. If he opposes it, we have our campaign message for 2026. That he's a dictator who doesn't respect constitutional reform. Either way, we win. Either way. An unidentified voice responds, "But what if he what if he lets it go through and then challenges it legally?" Lusambo's response drips with confidence, "He won't. He can't afford to. His entire brand is rule of law, right? So he has to engage with it politically. And politically, we've got him boxed in." The recording continues for another 7 minutes, with participants congratulating themselves on the brilliance of the strategy. But it was President Hichilema's response, delivered in a televised address on April 15, 2023, that revealed just how thoroughly he understood and had prepared for this moment. "My fellow Zambians, I have watched with great interest as certain members of the opposition have introduced Bill 7 into our national conversation. Some have asked me why I haven't responded sooner. The answer is simple: I wanted to give them enough rope. This bill, they tell you, is about constitutional clarity. Let me provide actual clarity. I have here." He lifts a bound document. A complete legal analysis prepared by 3 of Southern Africa's most respected constitutional scholars, including one who served under President Kanda. Their conclusion is unambiguous: Bill 7 is not a clarification. It is an attempted manipulation. And more than that, it is unconstitutional on its face, violating Article 79 regarding the amendment process itself. But here's what's most interesting. The drafters of this bill made several technical errors that reveal they copied portions from failed constitutional amendments in other African nations without understanding the Zambian legal context. In fact, Section 3, subsection B is lifted almost verbatim from a rejected Kenyan bill from 2019. The camera zooms in as Hichilema continues. "So let me be clear. I will not oppose this bill. I will not give legitimacy to this charade by treating it as serious legislation. Instead, I will do something my opponents never expected: I will let it proceed exactly as they wish. I will watch them vote for it. I will watch them defend it. And then, I will let the Constitutional Court, the independent judiciary they claim to respect, do its work. And when it is struck down, as it will be, we will all see who truly respects the Constitution and who seeks to manipulate it for political gain." The response from civil society was immediate. McDonald Chipenzi, director of the Civil Society Constitution Agenda, told reporters the next day. What President Hichilema did was, it was extraordinary. He essentially called their bluff. He said, "Go ahead, show the country who you really are." And the thing is, he's right about the legal analysis. We've reviewed it. Bill 7 has at least 4 fatal constitutional flaws. It was never going to survive judicial review. The question now is whether the PF will continue with it knowing they'll lose, or whether they'll withdraw and lose face. Deeper analysis. The implications of Bill 7's failure extend far beyond a single legislative defeat. Political analyst Laura Mitty of the Alliance for Community Action framed it this way. What we witnessed was a fundamental miscalculation about who Hakainde Hichilema is. The PF spent years portraying him as a wealthy businessman playing at politics, someone who could be outmaneuvered by career politicians. What they failed to recognize is that HH built a multi-million-dollar business in one of Africa's most challenging economic environments. That requires strategic thinking, patience, and the ability to read your opposition. He brought all of those skills to this fight. The opposition's response revealed deep fractures within the PF itself. By July 2023, 3 prominent PF members had publicly broken with the party over Bill 7. Former Defense Minister Geoffrey Mwamba gave a particularly scathing interview. "I'm going to be honest with you. I was in some of those early meetings. Not the one that leaked, but others. And I kept saying, are we sure about this? Are we sure HH hasn't thought this through?" But nobody wanted to hear it. There was this assumption that because we'd been in power and he hadn't, we knew better. That was our fatal mistake. We underestimated him. Pure and simple. Legal experts noted the broader constitutional implications. Professor Muna Ndulo of Cornell University, a Zambian constitutional scholar, explained. Bill 7 represents a cautionary tale about bad faith legislative processes.
The drafters sought to exploit constitutional ambiguity for partisan gain. But the Zambian constitution, particularly after the 2016 amendments, has robust safeguards against precisely this kind of manipulation.
What Hichilema did was trust those safeguards. Trust the system.
And in doing so, he demonstrated that the rule of law can be a political weapon when used correctly.
The Constitutional Court's eventual ruling in September 2023 was devastating for the bill's proponents.
In a unanimous 7-0 decision, the court not only struck down Bill 7 but included unusually sharp language about the intent behind it.
Justice Nsidali wrote in the majority opinion.
This court finds that Bill 7 was not a good-faith attempt at constitutional improvement but rather a transparent effort to achieve through legal manipulation what could not be achieved through the ballot box. Such attempts undermine public confidence in the legislative process and will not be countenanced.
The political fallout was immediate.
The PF lost credibility with swing voters who saw the party as more interested in legal games than policy alternatives. Civil society organizations that had initially been skeptical of Hichilema rallied to his defense, recognizing that he had protected constitutional integrity. And perhaps most significantly, the episode revealed to the Zambian public the difference between political tactics and political strategy.
But there were also concerns about the precedent being set. Some analysts worried that Hichilema's approach, letting bad legislation proceed to judicial review, could be abused by future leaders to avoid engaging with legitimate constitutional debates.
Others questioned whether the episode would further poison the already toxic relationship between the UPND and PF, making future cooperation impossible.
These ambiguities remain unresolved.
What is clear is that Bill 7 represented a turning point, the moment when Hichilema's opponents realized they were facing not just a different president, but a different kind of president.
Thank you so much for watching this edition of InspirAfrica Official.
The story of Bill 7 is far from over. Its implications will ripple through Zambian politics for years to come, and we'll be here to cover every development.
I want to hear from you. Do you think Hichilema's strategy was brilliant or risky? Should he have engaged more directly with the opposition's arguments? What does this episode tell us about the state of Zambian democracy? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.
I read every single one, and your perspectives often opened my eyes to angles I hadn't considered.
We'll be back tomorrow with another story that matters, another chapter in Africa's unfolding narrative. Until then, this is Nakash reminding you to stay informed, stay engaged, and stay inspired.
Take care, and God bless.